Welcome to part 5, the last part of this Football Manager 2020 experiment, where we're seeing if Africa can dominate world football. But rather than focusing on an African nation at the start of this experiment, we're taking a look at Laos, which you might think is strange, but I have mentioned them before. They've done remarkably well during this experiment. They've qualified, I think, for pretty much every World Cup. And they're actually 16th in the world rankings as we head into the last World Cup of this experiment. It's 2118, by the way. We're going to take a look at that particular World Cup in a bit more detail. But I wanted to talk about Laos because they have done so well. And there's been a lot of people in the comments pointing this out and wondering what the hell is going on. Now, initially, I thought the problem was I had accidentally improved Laos as well as the African nations. Because remember, at the start of the experiment, on the editor, I improved all of the African nations. I changed the youth rating to 200. But that is definitely not the case with Laos. They've got 7. So they should be producing pretty awful players. They're very unlikely to produce world-class talent, any talent at all, really. So it's nothing to do with that. I've not improved the Laos clubs whatsoever. The reason for this is really quite random. If we look at the national team, you'll notice they've got 2 very good players. They've got a little bit of talent here and there. But for whatever reason, I wouldn't say it's like a team that should be qualifying for every single World Cup. Then again, from their particular region, maybe this team should be dominating quite well. So the best player is world class. Plays for PSG. But he started at a club in Angola. And there's a pattern here. If we look at every single player, they started at this particular club in Angola, and I have no idea why. I don't think I accidentally did anything on the editor. It might be some sort of strange bug. I don't know. They're all starting at this club in Angola. Now, if we look at the player details, you'll notice they were born in Laos. It's not like they were born in Angola. They just, as a child, moved to Angola. I suppose in theory, remember this is a parallel universe where African nations are developed states. They're all rich. They've got money. Perhaps there was a war, a civil war in Laos, and Angola invited all these people over, all these children and their families over as youngsters, and they ended up in Angola. But why would they only play for one particular club in Angola? It's not other clubs in Angola. It's literally this one club in Angola, founded in 2015. They're amateur, so they're not even one of the top teams in Angola. They're not playing in the Angolan Championship. They're playing pretty far down. They're playing in some lower division Angolan amateur league. Now, remember, I did improve all of the African clubs. So I improved all of the African nations. But I also improved the facilities of every single African club based in the continent. And also gave them an underwriter. So likewise with this particular club, they have really good facilities. So they're able, I guess, in theory, to produce good players and have the ability to train them up to be decent players. But if we look at them, all of the players that play for this club are from Laos. They're all born there. It's just really bizarre, and I don't know why. But this explains it. So ironically, despite all of the things I've done in this experiment, improving all of the African nations, all of the African clubs, quite simply, the biggest factor, the biggest influence was this one little Angolan club, amateur club. And they've had a huge impact on one nation, Laos. They're 16th in the world rankings. Obviously, they've not won the World Cup, I don't think. If we look at their competitions, they've won the Asian Nations Cup multiple times. They've won 5 out of the last 6. They're dominating. They're beating Australia and South Korea and those sorts of teams, just because of this one amateur club from Angola. So you can do all this stuff on the editor, and in the end, it's some random thing. Maybe it's a bug. Maybe I have made a mistake. I don't know. I don't understand why it would be one particular club from Angola that's producing loads of players from Laos. It just doesn't make any sense. It's quite funny that I've gone to all this trouble changing things, and then this happens. But there we go. Anyway, let's move on. Now, I have mentioned previously I was on holiday over the last week, so that's why there's not been a video for a while. I did schedule some uploads, and that's why you had one recently, part 4. But it's been a few days between part 4 and part 5. I've been simulating the last few years, the last few World Cups of this experiment, and we've gone up to the 1st of June 2118. We're going to work through each of the group stages and also the knockout rounds individually, and see how the African nations get on at this last World Cup. So at this last World Cup, we do have Algeria, we've got Burkina Faso, we've got the Gambia, we also have Ghana in there, South Africa, the most successful team at this World Cup, during this experiment, Morocco, Cameroon and Niger. Oh, and Nigeria as well. So plenty of teams getting through, and of course Laos as well in Morocco's group. So we will have a look at that in a bit. But first of all, you obviously want to see what's happened at the last few World Cups. Now, the last time you saw me, I think, was it 2086, I think it was, when Mali won the World Cup. So the second African nation to win a World Cup. Unfortunately, since then, we haven't seen an African nation win it. But we have seen South Africa and Mali finish runners-up. It's both to England. So pretty unlucky there. England have completely dominated in recent years. They're currently third in the world rankings. They have been first, obviously, after winning 4 of the last 7 World Cups. They have been pretty impressive. They'd only won 1 up to that point, hadn't they, in 2054? Yeah, but since then, completely dominant. Denmark have done well, finishing third twice. USA finishing second. Italy up there. France, Brazil and Spain, the other winners of the World Cup. Bit unfortunate for South Africa and Mali. If we just have a look at these two nations in particular, South Africa currently 13th and Mali have dropped off a bit. They're down to 31st. They did actually drop off all the way down to 46th at one point. But those two teams have been the two nations have been the most successful teams during this experiment from Africa, because they've actually won the World Cup, of course. Nigeria have finished runners-up. Tunisia have finished runners-up. But yeah, it's mainly all been about South Africa, really, hasn't it? But we have seen success from Samalak from Egypt, of course, at club football level. So there's a few things. I will show the Excel spreadsheet at the end. I want to fill it in completely correctly. So I'll probably blank it all and then start from scratch and make sure I've filled everything in properly. There's probably bound to be an error there. Anyway, what else should we look at before heading into this World Cup? I suppose I could quickly have a look at the semi-final stages of the last few World Cups. You can see South Africa did end up reaching the last one, but lost in the third place playoff, as you can see. We're going back in time here. No African team in the previous semi-final to that. Likewise, 2106. Tanzania reached the 2102 semi-final, but lost against Denmark in the third place playoff. So that's pretty impressive. Tanzania currently 65th in the world rankings, but once upon a time they were doing pretty well, reaching the semi-final of the World Cup. 2098, no one there. 2094, of course, Mali managed to get through to the final, where unfortunately they lost on penalties to England. That is very, very unfortunate. And then the previous final to that, South Africa lost after extra time to England, unfortunately. So that's pretty unlucky. They defeated Argentina in that semi-final. African Cup of Nations then, of course, it's only going to be African teams winning this, but you can see the teams that have dominated South Africa in recent years have been very good. Now, there's a competition every 2 years, so since you last left me, multiple competitions. We've seen Ivory Coast, Senegal, Algeria, Togo, Democratic Republic of Congo, Tunisia, Algeria, Ghana. They've all managed to win this competition. You can see second and third place playoffs winners as well. Then there's, of course, the CHAN, the African Cup of Nations, which is this one, which also takes place every 2 years. And remember, this is just for players based in the African continent, playing for African club teams. So we've got some different winners here. We've seen in recent years Algeria, Tanzania, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Angola have won it twice. So yeah, interestingly with Angola, Laos have got better players. It doesn't make any sense that one amateur team is producing so many really good players for Laos when all the other Angolan teams aren't really producing exceptional talent. They've produced a few good ones, some of these teams, but I think in some cases Portugal might end up nicking some of their players because of the link there. As you can see, there's a Portuguese player here, but was he born in? Yeah, he was born in Angola and ended up playing for the Portuguese under-20 team, but hasn't ended up playing for the Angolan national team after that for some reason. Obviously hopeful that he can get into the Portuguese team instead. So there's a few cases where, of course, because of the old links between European and African nations, or Europe, of course, colonising Africa, and it's enabled them to take some of the best talent, unfortunately, from Africa. I think there's a way on the editor where you can stop second nationalities, so that could be something to experiment with in the future. But Angola haven't really, considering they've produced tons of talent for Laos, it seems a bit unfortunate that they haven't really done anything themselves. But they have won the African Championship of Nations 3 times. They won the African Under-20 Cup of Nations and the Under-23 Cup of Nations. So yeah, won a few things here, I suppose. Other winners, Cameroon, Togo. Let's go down, look at the youth competitions as well. So the African Under-20 Cup of Nations, you can see the winners there. Sudan and Kenya have managed to win it, so that's pretty good going. Then we've got the Under-23 Cup of Nations, where South Africa have won 2 of the last 3. Senegal, Congo have won it. Angola, they've won that one as well. The Under-20 World Cup has had a lot of success for the African teams. It just seems to be that when they get to the full international stage, they aren't able to replicate what they've done at youth level. Now, it might be because, as I said before, some of the European nations, they might be nicking some of the best talent from these nations that have ended up winning. Of course, some players will move to Europe and then gain the nationality because they're there for a few years. So that's also a possibility as well, remember. But as you can see, Africa have dominated this. They really have. South Africa have won it in 2087. We saw Burkina Faso win it in 2095. That's really impressive. They're currently 25th in the world rankings, by the way. Algeria then won it 4 years later. South Africa won it 4 years after that. Ghana, Ivory Coast, Algeria and South Africa. So Africa as a continent are dominating the Under-20 World Cup. So we can say that. That is a conclusion of this experiment. Yes, maybe not at the start. There were a few winners. Cameroon won it a couple of times, South Africa. But since the last update, since part 4, they have completely dominated this. There's been a few European and South American teams winning it. But even, second place and third place, we've seen lots of African nations reach the semi-finals of this competition. So we can definitely say Africa have dominated youth football. It's full men's international football. That is a problem. I wonder if ever women's football is on Football Manager, that could be another avenue to go down. Maybe they could end up dominating women's football as well. Then we've got the Olympic Games. So we have seen a few winners of this. Of course, I don't remember if I showed this or not before, but Ivory Coast and South Africa won it in the 70s. Since then, we've seen Tunisia won it in 2100. Mali have won it. Ivory Coast have reached a final. Burkina Faso have reached a final. Tunisia have reached a couple finals. So they've been pretty good at the Olympics in recent years. The first sort of 60 years of this experiment, we didn't really see anything. But after that point, we have seen 4 different African nations win the Olympic Games, which is good going. Moving on to club football, the African Champions League then. We saw Zamalek win this multiple times. And yes, they have won it quite a few times since the last update, since 2086. But they certainly haven't been as dominant. They've won the most recent one, beating Wydad Casablanca in the most recent final. But the last time they won it before that was actually 2111. It's so strange to think 2118. We're pretty much 100 years into the future. But we've also seen a team from Mali win it 3 times in recent years. Wydad Casablanca from Morocco have won it. Tux, I don't think we've seen them win that before. South African team have managed to win it. Tunisian team have won it. We've seen Coach and Sport win it again. Cameroon team. Orlando Pirates from South Africa. So yeah, there's been a few interesting winners. It's mainly teams that we have seen win it before, but the likes of Tux hadn't won it before, I don't think. Instead, Mali, and I don't think they'd... Well, no, they did back in 2078. I tell a lie. Who's Zesco? From Zambia reaching a final. That's impressive as well, I think. There's not been any massively... Well, there has been some surprising teams, but we've not seen a team from Madagascar win it or anything like that, I don't think, unfortunately, or even reach a final. Where's Salitas FC? They're from Burkina Faso. They reached a final. That's pretty good going. So this does lead on to the Club World Championship, which I haven't shown yet. This is the African Confederations Cup, first of all. So this is like the Europa League version of in Africa. So there's a few different winners there. We've seen a team from Algeria win it in recent years. 2 teams from Algeria, in fact. Where's this team from? Angola? Oh, wow. So yes, a few more teams from different nations managing to pick up this competition. Kaiser Chiefs Surprised they haven't done particularly well in the Champions League. They've won the South African League a couple times by the looks of it, but those are the Orlando Pirates have dominated, as you can see. Currently a 4-star reputation team, but Zamalek, remember, 5-star reputation team. If we just go back to them and have a quick look, because they've been the most successful club team from Africa, and they've still got 5-star reputation. They've still got their underwriter and perfect facilities, as you can see there. And if we look at their team, they've got some decent talent. It's not the strongest team we've seen from Zamalek. Their best player is a Brazilian goalkeeper, in fact, who has got 1 cap for Brazil. And then the next best player is from Ivory Coast, 25 years old, 148 current ability. So not the strongest team at the moment, but they have produced some exceptional talent and also stolen or bought exceptional talent from other African nations as well. Moving on to the Club World Championship then. Have we seen an African winner? I don't think we have. The most surprising winner in recent years is Santa Fe from the Colombian First Division. That is a shock. Their 4.5-star reputation. What has happened to them? I mean, this is irrelevant to the experiment, but for whatever reason, they don't even have that many good players, but they've won this competition. And I'm pretty sure I've got the detail level on this competition as well, so it's not like it's a random winner. They've just somehow gone on and beaten all these European teams. Remember, the Club World Championship changes in 2021 to encompass lots more clubs, but we haven't really seen... Well, we've not seen an African team win it. It has been pretty much European teams and then a couple of South American teams, one from Brazil, one from Colombia. But reaching the final, we've not seen anyone either, have we, unfortunately? Because the thing is, it includes like the last few finalists of the Champions League and the Europa League. So you end up with lots of European talent in this competition. So it basically ends up being another European Cup, but it's held in the summer. However, we have seen Zamalek finish 3rd once, I think. Pretty sure I spotted them. Here they are. They finished 3rd in 2069. If we just look at the most recent competition, you can see the sort of teams involved in it. So we've got Stade Malien from Mali in there. We've got a team from Morocco. Oh yeah, Wydad Athletic. And we've also got Tuks from South Africa, because at the time they'd won the African Champions League. So it's really hard to get out of this group stage because you've got all these European teams and also a few teams from Brazil doing very well. So it's almost impossible for the African teams to do well in this sort of Club World Championship when there's only one team qualifying from the group. So that's a little bit unfortunate. If we go back to 2069, where Zamalek got through, so they actually finished above Liverpool. Coton Sport unfortunately didn't qualify either. It's just really, really difficult for the African teams to get through. And then they defeated Man United in the quarterfinal. Then in the semi-final, they lost against Barcelona, unfortunately. But the 3rd place playoff, they beat Atletico Madrid 3-1. So that's pretty impressive. That's probably when they had a really good team, to be fair. So yeah, excellent stuff. It's strange that Egypt haven't done particularly well. They're 42nd in the world rankings. Considering Zamalek has been so powerful, you'd have thought they'd produce lots of Egyptian talent. But maybe they're focusing on players from other nations a bit too much, and it's neglecting their own talent. They've got someone called Salah as manager, by the way, Hani Salah. Let's look at the world rankings then before we go into this World Cup and just tick Africa. And this is the final standings, I guess, for this. Well, it might change by the end of the World Cup. But South Africa 13th. They've been consistently in the top 20, haven't they? But Algeria have done well as well in recent years. They're 18th in the world rankings, so we have a quick look at them. And they've climbed up the world rankings in recent years. 179 current ability is their best player, playing for Arsenal, Saeed Amrani. Actually, we haven't looked at the South African team, have we? They tend to have a good balanced squad rather than having outstanding stars, and once again that is the case here. They've got players playing for top teams, but they don't have a world-class player of 175 current ability or anything like that, unfortunately. Ghana, they're up in 23rd. I think they've qualified, haven't they? So they've got 2 good players with 166 current ability. They've actually got 2 very good goalkeepers. It's always a bit of a shame when your best players are all goalkeepers or something like that, and it's not a well-balanced team, I suppose. But yeah, they've done pretty well. Burkina Faso have a decent player, 177 current ability, so they're in the top 30, and then we're into the 30s. We've got Mali, Cameroon, Senegal, and Ivory Coast, and Togo. If we go down, I don't think there's any massive surprises. Sudan have done pretty well during this experiment, I think. Currently got an average squad, but it's good enough to get them into the top 50 in the world. The Gambia have been a bit of a surprise package, and they've of course reached a World Cup again. They must have reached it at this point and suddenly gone up in the world rankings. But this is a decent team. It's usually not the best team when we look at them, but they've just overperformed. But they've got a good striker, plays for Krasnodar, 157 current ability, and a decent central midfielder, experienced as well. So there's some good players in that Gambia team. Let's keep scrolling down a bit. I don't know if there's been any massive underperformers during this experiment. I suppose I was expecting the likes of Nigeria and Ivory Coast and Egypt to do a bit better than they have. South Africa have, of course, done very well. We've seen some of the North African teams come and go. Algeria and Tunisia have all done well. Mali, I think, has probably been the biggest surprise package, obviously winning the World Cup. If we keep going down then we're into the bottom 100. And there's some teams that haven't done anything simply because they don't really play many matches, such as Zanzibar. Somalia have dropped down to 205th. Well, they've gone up a couple places recently. Eritrea have dropped off quite a bit. What's happened to Djibouti? Oh, they're there. They've gone up, haven't they? They were all the way... They've done pretty well. They've produced some good talent. And once again, they've produced a world-class talented player who's playing for Celtic, interestingly. Played for Shakhtar, has moved to Celtic in the Scottish Premiership, of course, who are 4.5-star reputation team. They've done pretty well, I must say, and they're rich. That's interesting. So in this universe, Celtic have started to dominate again and do something in Europe by the looks of it. But yeah, the best player that we've seen so far today, once again playing for Djibouti. Of course, they had Kenneth, didn't they? Who did pretty well. They've had a couple of world-class talented players. So, yeah, they've managed to climb up, which I'm pretty pleased for them because you've got to love Djibouti. It's just a great name. Moving on to the Ballon d'Or then. Of course, we have seen lots of African players feature in this. But let's have a look in recent years. It seems... we've got a Ghanaian there, Kelvin Mensah, managing to win it in 2087. He retired at the age of 37. 105 goals in 139 games for Ghana. These are all the clubs he played for. So he had a fantastic career. Finished... no, he didn't. I wonder if this chap was born elsewhere. I think he was, because Comoros... Yeah, I think that's where he was born. So we have seen that. We've seen players with second nationalities end up winning this, but for another club. I mean, for example, this guy he didn't start in Morocco, did he? He started in Amora in Portugal. Okay, so maybe he is actually Portuguese. Kenyan finishing second, and then he won it. He won it twice in a row. Peter Ochieng, 87 goals in 115 games for Kenya. Played for Zamalek. Well, you can see he started in Kenya, played for Coaching Sport Zamalek, eventually moved to PSG a few years into his career, and then ended up winning Ballon d'Or 2 years in a row. That is exceptional stuff. We've then got an Ivorian winning it, Ibrahim Digba. Unfortunately, we can't see the attributes because they've retired. But it's still impressive to see all these African players winning it. 65 goals in 111 games. There's Mensah as well, Ghana. Then we've got a South African winner, Zungu, who's now retired as well. But he ended up playing for Barcelona. We've got the Ghanaian and the three players. There we go. Domination from Africa. They have dominated this award. We can certainly say this. They haven't dominated the World Cup, but I feel like Africa has dominated world football. Because you don't just think about the World Cup winners as a dominating thing, do you? You think about the players individually and how many players from African nations. For example, in real life right now, Salah and Mane. There's very little chance that their nations will win the World Cup, but they're two of the best players in the world. They're world class. You could argue African nations are having a big influence on world football right now because of those two players in particular. So it's the same here. Just imagine if the three best players in the world were all from Africa. You would say Africa is dominating world football. So I think we can actually say that That's what's happened. Digba managed to win it again, and then Zungu third. But look at the player finishing third. Player from Laos. That is fantastic. Love that. And he started at a little club in Angola. Look, there he is. It's so bizarre. It really is. I love it, but it is really, really bizarre. We've then got an Ivorian and South African finishing second and third. Then we've got the Laos player featuring again, and again. Not so many. Oh, there's an Ethiopian here, Samson Gurma, who's now a manager, but this is who he played for PSG for £170 million move. Many years he ended up playing for PSG. Since then, we've seen a Danish chap win it 2 times in a row. Great name, Ring Makir for Australia, finishing third. We saw a Kenyan finishing second. He's retired. Robert Njuri. Shows how many years we've got to go through here. Ethiopian managing to win it. Oh, this is the same chap, isn't it, that finished third? So he managed to win it twice in a row. And a player from Burkina Faso finishing third. And the Laos player again. And second year in a row for the Ethiopian. Sorry, I'm dithering here. Taking far too long to get through, but I'm just intrigued. Oh, this chap's still playing. He managed to win it. Played for Atletico Madrid, moved for £94 million. He's moved to Qatar most recently. So he won it in 2107. Then we saw him finish third. No one there. Ethiopian chap finishing second again. And then we saw this chap finish third. Comoros seem to be producing quite a few players that ended up playing for France, unfortunately. They're 136th in the world rankings. They've got one okay player there, one decent player. That's a bit harsh on him. He's good. He's good. But we've seen 3 players, I think, go from Comoros to France and end up finishing in the top 3 players in the world. This guy currently, 176 current ability, is 32, so he might have dropped off a bit. But he ended up finishing third in the Ballon d'Or. It's happened too many times to them, unfortunately. What would they have done if they'd managed to keep hold of all of their talent? Here's a Nigerian finishing third. He's 35 years old now, plays for Man City, moved for £128 million. Look at all the money involved with this guy. Great name, Pingoto, Brazilian. And then, I don't think we've seen any Africans feature in the last 3 years. But another player from Laos, again. This guy, who we looked at earlier. Insane. What a player. It's just so weird. And I'm guessing it's the same for Footballer of the Year and all of that. But if we look at World Team of the Year and look at all seasons, we've got someone that was born in Algeria but ended up... France can just get so much talent, can't they, from Africa? So the goalkeeper, born in Algeria, ended up playing for France, unfortunately. He's 31. Now, he's sometimes a bit biased to more recent players, I think, the all seasons thing. This guy from South Africa still playing for Man City. We've got someone from Laos again at the back for Barcelona, but remember, not born in Angola, but created brought up in Angola, I suppose. The Malawian at centre back as well, Englishman at left back, and then got a player from Gabon in central midfield. So we could definitely say Africa have dominated, can't we? I think this guy was born probably here. Another guy, it's Comoros. Is that someone we've looked at before? I can't remember. Player from Guinea, up front, Mohamed Camara. So I think, oh yes, of course it's him. Long time ago now, isn't it? 2039 he retired. One of the original players that we saw, one of the world-class players. But it does seem to favour more recent players, this list. Here's someone from... Oh, wow. This is fantastic. Look at the dominance. Someone from Chad. Oh, yep, he's one of the early ones as well. Jimmy Richards, born in England. Delgado, Mexico. Cortez, Argentina. That might be it. Mbappe still on there. Oh, of course, our player, our friend from Madagascar. 79 goals in 99 games for Madagascar in the end. This is my favourite player, just because of his name. Randrian Rivelo Ratsaratasangana. Love it. What a name. In fact, how are Madagascar getting on? I'm intrigued. They're 71st in the world rankings. I mean, that is just a typical Madagascar name. Look at the name. There's a lot of R's in there. Really long last names. It just happened to be he also had a really long name, the chap that we like. But they've produced a world-class player here, right back. who is playing for Liverpool. 185 current ability, moved for £59 million from Basel, started in Madagascar. China nicked him for free. Basel bought him. And what a player. An elite fullback. So they have produced some decent players of Madagascar. Well, I think it's time to move on to the World Cup, isn't it? Or maybe we'll just have a quick look. Oh, this is just South African teams we can see. Reputation, Egypt, there's Zamalek. Oh, the Moroccan team, we did Casablanca with 5 stars as well. And ES Tunis, 5 stars. Cameroon, Cote Sport, 4.5 stars. This is great. I mean, look at Celtic. I said they were doing well. Stade Malien from Mali. I love it. They've done really well, haven't they? I don't think they'll feature in the leagues anywhere, unfortunately. Maybe cups, not sure. African, yeah, I boosted the African Champions League a lot. It's 5-star competition, so it's the same as the World Cup. And the African Cup of Nations I boosted to 5 stars. So yeah, the top 4 competitions in the world, which is why maybe Zamalek do attract quite a bit of talent, and also we've seen some of the African teams reach 5 stars, is because they're winning the African Champions League, which boosts their rating, of course, their ranking, and that's why they're so high. Same with maybe African Cup of Nations. With no, that won't obviously boost the ratings of the club teams. So going into the World Cup, these are the world rankings. France top, so they're the favourites. We've got Portugal, England, Brazil. Our biggest hope is probably South Africa. If we look at the group stages again, this is the African Cup of Nations. I want to go to the World Cup. Here we go. So I'm going to go through the group stage and see who manages to qualify, and we'll take it from there. So I've simulated to the end of the group stage of the 2118 World Cup. As you can see, Algeria managed to qualify in 2nd place. We saw Egypt top the group with 6 points. Burkina Faso went through in 2nd place. The Gambia went through in 2nd place as well. Ghana finished 2nd in their group. South Africa finished 2nd in their group. Morocco topped the group, finished ahead of Laos, who also managed to qualify. Cameroon went through from Group M. I'm almost thinking Laos is like a honorary African nation in this experiment now. Niger topped their group, finishing ahead of Germany. And Nigeria were the only team to fail to qualify, but they had a tough group with Colombia and Portugal. As you can see, they're currently 42nd in the world rankings. Not the best African team. If we just look at their 2 results, 2-0 loss against Portugal, 2-2 draw against Colombia, and this is their current squad. So they've got some decent players. It's not bad teams, so it's just a bit unfortunate that they featured in one of the toughest groups, I suppose, of the World Cup. Of course, there's only 3 teams in each group nowadays, so you're less likely to get a group of death, but it is basically a group of death, I suppose. Niger did phenomenally well to top their group. Let's have a look at their results. So they beat Jamaica 4-1 and drew 1-1 against Germany. Let's just stick this view up. Not that these players will mean much, but this chap scored twice against Jamaica. Let's have a quick look at their team. One to watch out for in the second round. They've got a really good player playing for Barcelona with 164 current ability. Cameroon went through. They won 1 game and lost 1 game. Lost against France, predictably, and defeated Guatemala 6-0. Morocco went through top of their group, of course, so let's have a look at them. So they managed to... Did they have the best team, do they? It's all right, but they drew 2-2 against Laos. That's not a bad result considering they're 16th in the world rankings. And a 3-0 win against Sweden. This chap managed to score twice, 16 on finishing, pacey, not a bad player. South Africa finished 3rd behind Qatar. Did really well to finish top of the group. They lost against Qatar 1-0 and beat Russia 3-1. This is the team, remember, they've got a good well-rounded team, I suppose. Ghana went through in 2nd, they're 20th in the world rankings now, and yeah, they lost against Italy, but beat Ecuador 3-0. Their team is good. They feature 2 167 current ability players, remember. Gambia did well to go through in 2nd place as well, 50th in the world rankings, but a 1-1 draw against Canada and then a 1-1 draw against Belgium. Very impressive stuff. Burkina Faso also managed to win 1 game and lose 1 game. Lost against England, but they did beat South Korea 4-0 in their first game of the World Cup. They've, of course, got a decent squad, and they've got 1 player with 177 current ability, with 187 potential, and he's only 22, remember. Egypt topped their group. They've underperformed in this experiment, but maybe this will be their year. They've got 1 player with 188 current ability playing for Barcelona. He is the clear star in this team. And in the group stage, they defeated USA 2-1. And they also managed to beat Denmark 1-0. And lastly, Algeria from Group B managed to beat Saudi Arabia 1-0 and lost 1-0 against Holland. But that was enough to get through to the second round. They've got one player to watch out for as well. Amrani, the Arsenal player, who's got 179 current ability. So it's been a magnificent start to the second round of the World Cup for the African nations. The first day of the second round, Algeria defeated Brazil 2-0. Brazil, the holders of the World Cup. This is incredible. Brazil 4th in the world rankings. Algeria 15th. They've risen up after that win against Brazil, I suppose. And the two goal scorers, Hamza Abed, a right winger, and Bouzidi, he's their striker, 53 goals in 131 games for Algeria. Brazil missed a penalty. Algeria missed a penalty. They had a chance to go 1-0 up, but they then managed to score anyway, 2 goals from open play. And what an achievement to beat the holders. That is incredible. And then a 4-1 win for Egypt against Haiti. A team, I suppose, they'd expect to beat them. Haiti 57th in the world rankings. Egypt currently 31st. They've really gone up since managing to get through to the second round of this competition. Osman with 2 goals. The other 2 goal scorers, Abdelaziz, who's the really good one, the really good central midfielder, and Ragab as well, an attacking midfielder. So very successful for those 2 African nations. Looking at the rest of the second round, we've got Burkina Faso against Mexico, the Gambia against Argentina, then 2 all-African clashes, Morocco versus South Africa and Niger versus Cameroon. Burkina Faso have managed to qualify for the third round of the World Cup. They defeated Mexico in the second round thanks to a goal from Amzat Kampore, their young striker. Very good physicals, actually. Nice looking player. Unfortunately, the Gambia were defeated by Argentina. 9th in the world rankings against 50th was always going to be tough. Bar for the Gambia played very well in goal. Jallo did score a penalty, but it wasn't enough in the end, unfortunately. Some more success for African nations. Ghana managed to beat Spain 2-1 in their game. 2 goals from Emmanuel Sape inside 4 minutes. Young striker, 4 goals in 4 games for Ghana. I don't think he'd really played for them before the World Cup. And despite a red card towards the end, they managed to qualify. I mean, it's a crazy game. Look at all the yellow cards. 3 goals inside the first 6 minutes of this game. A missed penalty from Spain and a red card, and Ghana still managed to get through. So that's a fantastic result against Spain, who are currently 5th in the world rankings. Some big boys are getting defeated here. There's a chance that we might see another African winner of a World Cup. Laos, our honorary African nation, managed to defeat Qatar 2-0 after extra time. And then in the first all-African clash, Morocco were defeated by South Africa. Maswanganye managed to score 69 goals in 119 games for his country. He's a fantastic striker. Morocco, unfortunately, well, one of the teams had to lose. One of the teams had to get knocked out. They've risen up the rankings quite significantly, though, since qualifying for the World Cup. And in the last second round match to feature African nations, Cameroon defeated Niger 2-0 thanks to goals from Nijo, something like that, and Zok, a right winger. So Niger unfortunately knocked out. They did really, really well in the group stage. 55th in the world rankings. I think they're the lowest ranked African nation going into the tournament. Cameroon currently joint 31st and into the third round with quite a few other African teams. So the third round, looking ahead to it, we've got Algeria versus Denmark, Egypt versus Holland, Burkina Faso versus Argentina, then an all-African clash between Ghana and South Africa. Remember Laos still in it. They're playing Italy, and Cameroon, against Portugal. So the first 2 results of the third round are in. There's been one successful African nation and one unsuccessful African nation. Algeria defeated Denmark 3-2. They opened the scoring in the 12th minute through Larby. They went 2-0 up thanks to Benayad before Denmark got back into it, 2-1. But then 3-1 thanks to Benayad again before an own goal gave Denmark hope. But Algeria held on and they're through to the quarter-final of the World Cup. But unfortunately, Egypt were easily beaten by Holland 4-1. They went 3-0 up before Yasin gave Egypt a bit of hope. But yeah, 4th goal in the 93rd minute made it look like a thrashing. Abdelaziz did play well. He's the key man, the star player, world-class talent. But unfortunately, he is knocked out of the World Cup with his nation Egypt. Burkina Faso are also through to the World Cup quarter-final. Fantastic victory against Argentina thanks to Mohamed Touré with the goal. 1-0 win against Argentina, 9th in the world rankings. Very impressive stuff. Just a reminder of where Burkina Faso are. They're 18th. They really have improved since the start of the World Cup. The other quarter-final, England absolutely mutilated Belgium 7-0. Well, this is fantastic. Obviously, another African team have qualified after Ghana beat South Africa, but Laos are also through after a penalty win against Italy. But let's first look at the Ghana 2 South Africa 0 match. Sarpe with another goal for Ghana. He's impressing. 5 goals in 5 games for his country now. And the other goal from someone called Ernest, which is brilliant. What a name. Ernest Boaki, who's a very good winger. Look at that. Pace 19. Oh, his physicals are brilliant. His crossing and dribbling is exceptional. Let's have a look at his current ability. 166, but he's really, really good. He's just a really efficient looking winger, isn't he? So he scored the other goal. And then, of course, Laos won on penalties against Italy to get through. 2-2 draw after 120 minutes. And, wow, they are flying. Still 16th in the world rankings, defeating Italy, who are currently 7th in the world rankings. There's a lot of top 10 teams that have been defeated. I think the biggest stumbling block now is probably England, who have just been so dominant in the last few years. It's going to be really tough to get past them. More fantastic news. Cameroon have beaten Portugal on penalties after a 1-1 draw. They equalised through Ngumbu, 32-year-old left winger, only his 10th cap for his country. Not the best looking player ever, but he was the hero that managed to equalise against Portugal. And then in the penalty shootout, they scored all 4 penalties, and Portugal missed a couple, as you can see there. So just to recap, Algeria are through, Egypt out, Burkina Faso are through, Ghana are through. It's a surprise that South Africa have lost, but it was 2 tough teams against each other. The highest ranked African team is out. The most successful nation during this experiment has been defeated. And they were probably the best hope for Africa winning at this World Cup. But Ghana have 2 very good players and a decent, well-rounded squad. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Cameroon have done very well as well. They've got a good team. Let's see what happens in the quarter-final stage. And this is the lineup. Algeria are playing England. Holland are playing Burkina Faso. Ghana versus Cameroon. So we're at least going to have one African nation in the World Cup semi-final, and then Laos versus France. So Algeria have the toughest task against England. That's going to be really hard. Holland currently 8th in the world rankings. Of course, they won 4-1 against Egypt, so Burkina Faso have a tough ask there as well. Right then, time to go on holiday for one day and see if Algeria can pull off a miracle. Let's go. Unfortunately not, but Burkina Faso have 5-1 loss for Algeria against England. England are just so powerful. Jonathan Savage with a hat-trick. What a player he looks. We did score 1 goal. I say we. Algeria scored 1 goal. And Rani managed to find the back of the net in the 91st minute. Consolation goal, of course. However, Burkina Faso defeating Netherlands is very, very impressive. It went to penalties, and they actually had a red card in extra time, as you can see there. The hero was Campore. Again, I think he's scored a couple goals, hasn't he, at the World Cup? And he managed to equalise in the 60th minute. And then a few penalties missed. It was 3-2 in the end on penalties. They're through to the World Cup semi-final. So we're going to have at least 2 African nations in the World Cup semi-final. Fabulous news. So Ghana managed to defeat Cameroon in the All-African quarter-final, but unfortunately it's the end of the road for Laos. They're out. Benayong did score in their quarter-final against France, but they lost 3-1. So France and England heading into the semi-finals will be the 2 favourites. Let's have a look at this quarter-final between Ghana and Cameroon then. 6 different goal scorers. Went to extra time as well. Cameroon actually opened the scoring with a penalty before an equaliser from Boakye. Then Aduro with a 91st minute goal. They thought it was the winner, but in the 95th minute, Noah equalised. And then 2 goals in extra time. Owusu and Gati in the 118th minute, confirming victory. Ghana have done very well, and they're through to the semi-final of the World Cup. And we're going to have an all-African clash. So we're going to have at least one African team in the final of the World Cup. So that is fantastic. England versus France, Burkina Faso versus Ghana. Let's find out who will be victorious. Burkina Faso 18th in the world rankings, Ghana 17th. So wow, that is very, very close. Let's just have a quick look at this going into the final into the semi-finals. South Africa still top, but Ghana and Burkina Faso have zoomed up into the top 20 after an impressive few games at the World Cup. I don't know how often this is updated. This might only be after the group stage even. I'm not 100% sure, but they've definitely moved up, haven't they, during the World Cup? Burkina Faso have moved up one place recently, that's for sure. So Ghana were victorious in the semi-final against Burkina Faso. They won 2-0, and England are also through to the World Cup final. I would say predictably so, but France were actually favourites going into the World Cup, first in the world rankings. They've defeated 3-1 by England, who have moved up to second in the world rankings after this win. Impressive win for Ghana. Burkina Faso have done very, very well. Let's just have a quick look at them. So it's disappointing that they didn't get through to the final. But if we look at the teams, arguably Burkina Faso have the better team. They've got a player of 177 current ability, remember. And Ghana, they've got two players with 166, so maybe slightly more well-rounded looking at them. But I don't know. They're quite similar teams. So Ghana are through. Let's watch the goals. Annan with the opening goal in the 4th minute. It was from a corner. Annan, good header across from his centre-back partner, and then he just poked home at the back post. And then an own goal. I'm not sure about this view actually. Is this director view? I think so. We can't really see what's going on, but it was an own goal apparently. I think it came off the back of the goalkeeper, or maybe it wasn't. No, it was from Zerbo, who's a centre-back for Burkina Faso. Either way, 2 corner goals, and Ghana are through to the World Cup final. 3rd place playoff then between Burkina Faso and France. We're going to watch the final. We have to end, if I'm allowed to. Should be allowed to. Let's just go and check. Click on, was it this one? No, I don't really want to attend the 3rd place playoff. We'll attend the final. There we go. Looking forward to it. Keith Stacey, 10 goals so far in the World Cup. He's the danger man to watch out for. Currently plays for Juventus. In fact, he's only just been signed because he was playing for Liverpool previously when I looked at him. So he's literally signed whilst at the World Cup for £114 million. And a new contract, a new club might inspire him to score even more goals in the World Cup final. Of course, remember, England have won 3 of the last 6 World Cups. No, sorry, 4 of the last 7 World Cups, which is very, very impressive. They haven't actually lost any finals either. When they've got to the final, they have won it. They have been clinical. So it's going to be incredibly tough, but obviously we're going to be supporting Ghana and hoping they can go all the way and win the World Cup. Another African team winning the World Cup would be a brilliant way to end this experiment. But they've done well to get to this point. We've seen 2 teams feature in the semi-final as well, which I think is the first time ever. I can't remember off the top of my head. So the 3rd place player finished Burkina Faso 2, France 4. They just weren't quite strong enough in the end. They managed to get it to extra time, open the scoring with a penalty from Sore. Munji then scored twice for France to put them 2-1 up before, look at him by the way, 102 goals, 139 games for France. And then Diallo for Burkina Faso managed to equalise in the 54th minute, but unfortunately 2 goals in extra time from Nias and Kudert managed to get them that 3rd place medal, the bronze medal. So yeah, what a brilliant tournament for Burkina Faso. They've done exceptionally well. I'm just interested in their manager. Once again, the managers are so awful. If they had a decent manager, these African nations, maybe they'd be even better. Surely they would be. They've done really well to get to this point, considering the manager that they have. But yeah, in the end, they lost 3. So they lost against England, so they probably would have lost against England in the World Cup final if they got there. Losing against Ghana and France, of course. So World Cup final day. Is it today? It's today. Oh, I'm excited. It's time. The teams are warming up for the World Cup final of 2118. Ghana going with a 4-4-2. And England lining up with a 4-3-3, essentially, with wingers, a defensive midfielder. So let's have a quick look through the Ghana team, just to remind ourselves of the players. They've got a really good goalkeeper, 166 current ability. I assume this is the one that's playing. Let's just double check. It is. So Idrissu, 130 caps for his country. They've also got a very good goalkeeper on the bench, of course. Only 4 caps, but he does have 151 current ability, so he's a quality goalkeeper. At right back, they've got Bokye, 156 caps for his country. They've got some experience in this team. 23-year-old fairly young centre-back though, alongside Aqua, who is very experienced, 134 caps. And then at left-back, another Bokier, 26-year-old, 85 caps for his country. Then in midfield, another, is it Bokier? I don't know, it's Ernest anyway, the one that plays for Real Madrid. £72 million player, exceptional talent. Look at him, he's just a perfect winger. Could do a better finishing. But what is going on here? I mean, are they related? Is this just a popular name in Ghana? I don't really know. I don't think they are related. Bodu in central midfield, 44 caps for his country, with Diallo alongside him, a very experienced 33-year-old of 121 caps. So there's a mix of youth and experience in this team. 25-year-old on the left-hand side, Babio. Looks a good player. And then up front, Sarpe is their top goal scorer at the World Cup. He's only 20. He's got 5 goals in 7 games. And they're possibly all at the World Cup. I'm not 100% sure. And then Aduro alongside him. He's got 25 goals in 78 games for Ghana. The England team was going to look much better. Rushton in goal, 54 caps. Let's just check his current ability. He's even better than the Ghana goalkeeper. At right back, Terrace. Not bad, looks good. Bliss at centre-back, West Ham. He's maybe the new Bobby Moore, possibly. Alongside Hunter, John Hunter, who's probably won a World Cup with England before because he's got 131 caps and he's 34 years old. Left-back Joseph also, likewise, would have won a World Cup previously. Hobbins, 29, possibly he's won the World Cup as well, I don't know. It's only, 8 years since they won it, so yeah. This guy wouldn't have been at the last World Cup, but he looks exceptional. Let's just... this England team is ridiculous. Quirk. How have Ghana got any chance against this team? Raven on the right-hand side, very experienced. Left-hand side, Rushton, youngster. And up front, he's the star man, Keith Stacey. Great name. If we just have a look at their team overall, Edmondson is the best. He's 22. He's got 189 current ability already. Rushton in goal. It's an exceptional team. Ghana gonna have to put in a defensive masterclass and hope Adrissu's on his day. Let's go. Out they step onto the pitch for this World Cup final. We'll turn this up a bit and get through it. We'll put it. I think we'll just put it on key highlights. There's likely to be quite a few anyway. England already on the attack, and that is cleared. Having said that, maybe there won't be that many highlights, although the fewer highlights the better for Ghana, I would say. 25 minutes in, it's the first proper highlight of the game. Rushton knocks it up the pitch and up steps... Oh wow, what a run from Bokier. This is the right winger, Ernest! Through on goal, and it's saved. One-on-one as well. Now, I know people say one-on-ones are broken on FM20, but I do have the public beta installed, which has improved the one-on-one situation. But unfortunately, that one was missed anyway. So, that was a glorious opportunity. The first clear-cut chance of the game. Are we going to regret missing that? I have absolutely no control over this. So I don't know why I'm saying we. But Ghana have gone into the lead. Babio. Wow. Ghana beating England 1-0 in the World Cup final against all odds. I haven't looked at the Ghana manager. I assume he's not the greatest manager in the world as well. Bodu with the assist. And Babio with the finish. Clinical finish from inside the box. I just want to have a quick look at the Ghana manager. I'm curious now. He's better than the Burkina Faso guy. He's basically, look at that, he's like the most average person ever. He got 10 on everything. So he's not bad, but he's certainly not great. I'm sure the England manager is much better. Here come England now, in possession, playing in their all red kit with red shorts as well. And Ghana playing in all white. That's knocked round the back for Terrace. And he crosses it in, it's headed away, and it's crossed back in, and saved comfortably by Idrissu. Well, this has been a good first half so far, but there's still 4 minutes to go. And here's Bokier, the right back version. It's knocked long over the top, and Aduro, he's round the back here, Aduro, 1-on-1, but it's a pathetic finish. And it was only a half chance apparently, so 1 clear-cut chance, 2 half chances, only 1 of those half chances has been taken. And they'll be regretting not scoring more than 1 goal. But it's a brilliant first half. What a performance. They're doing a job on England here today. This is remarkable. But can they hang on in this second half? England already on the attack in the 48th minute. Rushton to Stacey. Back to Rushton, who's just such a good player. Stacey also. What a player. It's blocked and it's back to Stacey. And it's a fantastic one-on-one save by the goalkeeper. The Ghanaian goalkeeper, the best player in the... Is he the best player in the team? Or the joint best player in the team? Something like that. He's exceptional anyway. And the corner's headed over the bar. That's the first clear-cut chance for England, and they've missed it. Through Stacey, £114 million player. Signed for Juventus only days ago. Wow. Here we go, though. 30 minutes to go. Stacey, is he going to make amends? Running at the Ghana defence. It's blocked, but it's back to Raven. Crosses it in. Headed away. Chance for Edmondson. It's back to Joseph. And he's put a decent ball in to Raven. Oh, another fabulous one-on-one save. And it's tipped round the post. I'm pretty sure I'm playing on the public beta version. Because I'm surprised at how many one-on-ones we've seen missed already. 3 one-on-ones missed. I've not been having that problem since installing the optional public beta. Either way, it doesn't matter because Ghana are winning 1-0. We're thankful for the misses from England so far. But they come again. They're all over Ghana in this second half, who I presume have probably gone a bit more defensive now that they're 1-0 up. We need to win the ball back and charge up the pitch. Here's Bliss playing all the way back to Rushton in goal. We need to see Ghana defeat England and stop the dominance of England. Here's Bokye. Ernest is through. Ernest! Oh, another one-on-one missed. This is ridiculous. I think it might be because I'm so far into the future. Perhaps the update is just not working on this save. I'm not sure. Chance for England though, late on. Well, not that late on. There's 13 minutes to go, and here go Ghana again, running at the back line of England. Here's Ernest, cuts inside. Ernest to Diallo, out wide. Bokye. Oh, he's been tackled. That's poor. We had men in the box there waiting for the opportunity. Look at the statistics. 2 clear-cut chances each, but Ghana have created 3 half chances. And it's end-to-end football. This is a great second half. Ababio on the run now. And he puts it through to Yakubu. Yakubu scores 2-0. There we go, finally. Oh, it's only a half chance. But either way, it's been stuck in the back of the net. I'm focusing too much on these chances. Let's forget about that. Ghana are winning 2-0. Let's celebrate. What a brilliant bit of play, because it was end-to-end football. And then Ababio with a fantastic ball through. Yakubu, who I think must have come off the bench, because I don't remember him at the start of the game. Am I right in saying that? Yes, he is. He's come off the bench and scored a famous goal for Ghana. But there's still 11 minutes to go. And you can't rule England out. And it's another fantastic save at the back post this time. Was that Stacey that was saved, or Raven? I'm not sure. But there's been 3 clear-cut chances missed by England now. 3 fantastic saves by the Ghana goalkeeper, to be fair to him. He should be on a higher rating. Yeah, he's on a 7.3. Should be on a higher rating than that, I think. There's 6 minutes to go. Can they do it? Southern with a free kick into the box. Headed away. Ghana have been very good at counter-attacking, but they can't get hold of the ball this time. Southern crosses it in. It's over everyone, and it's 2-1. There's a chance for England to get back into this. It's Jacob Rushton with the goal. And that's unfortunate because I think 3 Ghana defenders basically missed the ball, and one of them just... They needed to have one player closer to him. He was all open by himself here. 3 defenders... This guy here just completely missed it. The right back, Bokye. What was he doing? Just a couple minutes. 4 minutes of injury time. Are Ghana going to do it? They've won a corner with a minute to go. And it's headed just wide. That would have killed it off. There's still a few seconds to go. 40 seconds. You can't rule England out here. They are a ridiculously powerful team. 30 seconds. The Ghana goalkeeper playing chicken with the 2 England strikers and just sticks it out of play in the end. That was sensible, I suppose. 10 seconds to go. Come on, Ghana. Come on. This is the perfect way to end the experiment. It really is. And are they going to do it? They going to do it? Please? It's headed on goal and Idrisu saves it. And that could be it, surely. Just blast it out the stadium, Idrisu. Just smash it as hard as you can. It's out wide. Oh, wow. Ababio's got space. Are we going to see a late goal here? Ababio tackled and he wins a corner. And that's the final whistle. Ghana are world champions. This is unbelievable. I promise you with all my heart, this was done by Ghana properly at the first attempt. Ababio and Yakubu with the winning goals. Rushton with a late goal to make it nervy for for Ghana, but they held on, and the man of the match was Ababi. Goal and assist. He played fantastically well on that left-hand side. Great saves from Idrissu as well in goal. Oh, this is special. Wow. I'm so happy for Ghana. I can't believe it. Up to 11th in the world rankings after winning the World Cup final. They should be higher than that, really, shouldn't they? But they've done it. Up 6 places. England still in 2nd place after reaching the World Cup final. That's fair enough. This is to be fair, the England manager is worse than the Ghana manager. That is really weird. It's almost like all managers are terrible by this point. I'm not sure why. Perhaps the game's just not producing very good regen managers, because the England manager is pretty awful as well. And that could have been a factor in their loss, I suppose. But either way, a special day for Ghana, a special day for Africa. It's the 3rd African nation that has won the World Cup, remember. If we have a look at this, we saw South Africa win it in 2038, we saw Mali win it in 2086, and Ghana, world champions in 2118. That pretty much rounds this experiment off. The only thing I need to do now is fill in the Excel spreadsheet, which I will do, and then that will be the end of the video. I'll show you that in a second. Here we go then. I've updated the main spreadsheet. I've not bothered with the other two, the World Cup and the key player one. This is the main one we want to focus on, because we can see the overall performance of all the African nations. So as you can see, I've sorted the world ranking peak from the smallest to the highest number. So South Africa were the most successful in terms of actually attaining a really good world ranking. They managed to reach number 8. Remember, we had 3 nations win the World Cup, and none of them were able to get to that number 1 spot. It just shows it's a little bit skewed towards European teams and South American teams, the world rankings. But yeah, South Africa managed to get into the top 10. The only other nation to get to the top 10 was Ivory Coast. But we also saw Cameroon and Ghana, who most recently managed to reach that number 11 spot, also reaching the top 20. Nigeria, Algeria, Senegal, Tunisia, Burkina Faso, Mali, Morocco, and that's it, I think. But look at some of the growth of these teams. Like Togo started at 124 and reached 22. Tanzania 140 reached 23. Some fantastic performances. If we do sort this by largest to smallest, you can see the Gambia reached a peak of 49. I think previously it was sort of about 55, but they managed to beat that peak and get up to 49th position. Tanzania's growth was fantastic. Burundi as well, Togo, Liberia. Most teams, in fact, all the teams apart from Swaziland were unable to. They were the only nation unable to go past their peak, unfortunately. But everyone else managed to grow at some point. I've also included Laos in here just for context. They started in 178th in the world rankings. Their peak was number 11, which is incredible. Obviously that is equal with Cameroon and Ghana, for example. So they really did grow just because of that little amateur Angolan team. It's really quite random. Of course, if you look at the World Cup wins, it was just South Africa, Ghana and Mali, but at least we had 3 nations win the World Cup. And as I've said, I think we can argue that Africa have dominated world football, particularly when we look at the player side of things. By the way, just before I forget, I have put a link to the last save file, so from the end of the 2118 World Cup. Put a link to that save file in the description below. If you want to play on, if you want to holiday further into the future, you're welcome to do so. You can let me know how they get on, and if you do want to fill in the other spreadsheet, then you're welcome to do that as well. Just to be honest, it's a bit of a mess. It's just take far too long to sort that out. Africa Cup of Nations, the equivalent of the European Championships, but for Africa, of course. South Africa with 11 wins in the end, very successful. Algeria also particularly successful, but quite a few different nations managed to win this one. We saw 19 different nations win it during this experiment, including the likes of Kenya and Mozambique, Burundi picking up a win as well. Then we've got the Chan, which is just made up of teams that, why can't I sort this by highest to lowest? There we go. This is just made up of players based in Africa, remember. I don't think South Africa actually compete in this competition, which is why they haven't managed to win any. Nigeria, the most successful, with 10 wins, a long way ahead of the next best. Ivory Coast, Cameroon, Burkina Faso and Democratic Republic of Congo. But once again, quite a few teams winning this. 18 different teams winning this. And then this is the most successful competition, I think, overall. The Under-20 World Cup. So many different African nations winning it, but South Africa won it 5 times in total. We saw Cameroon and Ghana win it 3 times, Burkina Faso and Algeria win it twice, and Ivory Coast and Tunisia. So they were very successful at youth level. It was just translating that across to full men's international level that was tricky. And then we saw 4 different nations win at the Olympics in the end: South Africa, Ivory Coast, Tunisia and Mali. And then club football, not quite so important, I suppose, in this experiment, but it was interesting to see Zamalek win 35 African Champions League titles. I think I've got this right, I might be slightly wrong, but Morocco apparently won 17. I had to go through the individual winners and just see where they were from. So Morocco pretty successful, 2 different teams involved in that, I think. South Africa, I think there's 4 different teams that won the Champions League. Tunisia with 2 different teams. Mali and Cameroon also doing particularly well on this. And then Ballon d'Or. This was interesting because Guinea, who didn't feature in anything else, they did reach 38 in the world rankings. But remember Mohamed Camara, he won 9 Ballon d'Ors and he ended up with the most out of any player and also out of any nation, winning 9 in total. Madagascar, with our friend Double R, Randy, 5 wins for him, doing very well. And once again, a nation that only rose to 68 in the rankings, but they did produce a few world-class players. South Africa and the Democratic Republic of Congo with 3, and Malawi as well, which was pretty good going for them. They only reached 94. And Comoros, even more successful, only up to 128 in the world rankings, produced lots of talent that ended up playing for France and other European nations, I think. But they did actually have a player that won 3 Ballon d'Ors, which was pretty good going. Ivory Coast, Ethiopia involved as well. Cameroon. So this was interesting because it wasn't just based on how successful a nation was. You could have a superstar emerge from one of these lesser known African nations. For example, Reunion produced a Ballon d'Or winning player. And he didn't play for France, he played for Reunion. That is pretty remarkable in itself. So it has been fascinating. Let me know your thoughts on this experiment. I don't know if it's been a bit messy having a whole continent. I like the whole spreadsheet thing and they're competing against each other and it's interesting to see how a whole continent competes. But perhaps there's a few too many nations, I don't know. I've enjoyed it, I hope you have too, but in terms of maybe focusing on just one nation, I think having more than one nation makes it a bit more interesting. But perhaps limiting it to 4 or 5 nations in future, possibly. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. I am thinking of doing this with other regions. I was thinking Southeast Asia because that was quite a popular comment, but that would be quite a few nations as well, wouldn't it? Maybe not quite as many as this, but I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. If you've managed to get to this stage in the video, I would appreciate your feedback. As always, if you have enjoyed the series, enjoyed this video, please leave a like. That'd be much appreciated. Let's just finish by looking at the World Cup. We'll finish with the World Cup winners. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it. We had 3 winners in the end in South Africa, Mali and Ghana to round things off nicely, beating England in that final. What a win for them. But until next time, enjoy FM20. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you very soon.